Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Helena Nadd. I'm the Executive Director with the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. And welcome to this fabulous, informative webinar. I'm really excited about this. It's very important to get information into the hands of businesses. And that's the reason why we host these informative webinars on how to grow your business and how to protect your business, and what to do if your business is issued a civil summons for an alleged violation, and who to turn it over right now, because I don't have that information. It is put on by the Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings, and we have John Castelli, who is the Deputy Commissioner, Legislative Affairs, New York City Office of the Administrative Trials and Hearings. So I am going to introduce him right now, and then he is also going to introduce Marissa and also Rachel, who I have the pleasure and privilege of working with and putting this webinar on today. So right now I am going to turn it over to John. This, just for everyone who is on here, it is being recorded. It will be on Chamber TV. Put your questions in the chat. All four of us will be monitoring the chat. That's what it's here for you to ask questions. And I have to say, don't put personal information, any tax ID, any reference to anything, your social security number or anything like that. Please don't do it. But we are monitoring the chat. So right now, John, thank you so much for doing this. So informative, so important to get it into the hands of businesses.
Thank you, Helena. And I do want to, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out the incredible work that you do. I've seen it personally. I've seen Helena, I was recently had seen her at the Queens Business Expo, and she really advocates incredibly for the chamber, for the businesses that are part of, that make up this incredible, amazing organization. So I can't say enough about that. I do want to also point out that I hope you can see the screen. We are sharing our website. Our website is our tool. It is a valuable tool and an easy tool for you to use. And it was created by our Deputy Commissioner, who I'm going to talk about, Marissa Sinigo, when I introduce her, the fabulous work that she does. I'm going to also get into the fabulous work that our Senior Advisor, Rachel Lamar, does with the chambers, with small businesses throughout the city. But again, I do want to, I'm going to throw this question out first. What do courts and businesses, what do they both have? I want you to think about that, because there's an answer for that question. What do they both have? And we'll come back to that. I'll ask that question again. Many of you may have never heard of the New York City Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings. And we go with the acronym OATH, O-A-T-H. It's a lot easier to say, less syllables. And we find I find, and my colleagues I think could agree, most of the times less syllables are words that we use a lot more often and a lot easier for us to remember. Acronyms are a big part of our everyday lives. We see acronyms everywhere we go. And OATH is no exception. But what makes OATH exceptional is that we are New York City's independent administrative law court or tribunal. And we're very proud of that independence, because we are going to talk about what OATH is, what to do when you're issued a summons by a city enforcement agency for an alleged violation. I want to put alleged, because you always have the opportunity to challenge that summons in an OATH hearing. We'll get to that too. And we also have, what are the free resources we have available for businesses, all right, who want to challenge or fight those summonses? Free resources. And we also know that time for businesses time is equal to money. So we've made it very convenient with the process that we have. Over the years, we've simplified the process, made it so easy that our rules are very easy. They're common layperson's terms. You don't have to get a law degree or a law license to read those rules and have an understanding. You can do it yourself. And that's what makes it very important for all of us. Greater access to justice means resources that are available for you, for your business, should you be issued a summons for an alleged violation. Now, I want to point out that summonses are issued in New York City by more than 24 city enforcement agencies that include the Department of Buildings, the Department of Sanitation, the Fire Department, Department of Environmental Protection, Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. If you're a for-hired vehicle driver, a taxi and limousine commission. Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. So if you're a restaurant, so you go in restaurant order, think about, you may come across inspections by the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. And a whole array of, including NYPD for civil summonses, New York City Police Department for civil summonses. And there are a whole array of other agencies that issue summonses that come to oath, where you have the opportunity, always afforded the opportunity, to challenge your summons at a hearing. And when I say simplified, we also have, since COVID, our hearings are done by phone. So you don't have to leave your place of business should you want to fight that summons. We've made it very convenient. And you don't have to sit around while you're waiting on the phone for the hearing. We have an option for you, a callback option, where you can opt in. And that's the work that my colleague Marissa had done. And I'll get more into that when I introduce Marissa. Can't help it, but when I bring up those things, I know who's responsible for doing that stuff, that great work. So I just want to point out, and looking at our website, I want to point out that there's our homepage, and this is really good to have as a favorite, to put it down as a favorite, because it's very easy to get to. And I want to point out that through the chamber, through Helena and her fabulous team, there's a direct connect that we have with the chamber. Okay, Rachel, our point person, anytime, if you feel you're having trouble getting in touch with anybody, you can contact Helena, and Helena can get us to you right away to do any type of troubleshooting or answer any questions. Get you to the Small Business Help Center, which is what we're going to get into also here today. But I do want to point out with our website, okay, our website is, as I said, is very user-friendly. It's so user-friendly that even I know how to use it. And I'm not the most technical guy in the world. But I do want to point out that looking at this website, making a click just on the icons that we have here. We have the phone icon and the video icon, but you just click right on this page and it opens up to a lot of information. And if you have time, please, to peruse through it, you'll find out some interesting points. We have, Oath is made up of a hearings division, okay? And if you know federal court, you'll know that hearings division would be equivalent to the magistrates in federal court. And then we have a trials division, which would be equivalent to the federal district court judges. So we have a higher court and we have a lower court. In most cases for businesses, you'll probably be going to be dealing with summonses, a summons that was issued for an alleged violation to your business. So you're going to be dealing with the hearings division. And you're going to be you would be looking to fight your summons at the hearings division. Now, if you look at our website and you see information about answering summonses, okay, there are two ways for you to answer summonses, and you have to answer that summons. You can't take that summons and say, I don't care about this, I'll throw it away. The worst thing in the world you can do is ignore that summons. So you have to answer it. And there are two ways to answer it. One is, I'm not going to fight this. I'm going to plead to the violation. I'm going to pay. Okay. And you pay and you plead to the violation. All right. The second way, the way that we at Oath, my colleagues and I encourage, is that you challenge or fight that summons. And that's where you get your hearing. You get your day in court. And you don't have to, again, I want to put emphasis because of the convenience. You do not have to go to a hearing center. You have your hearing by phone anywhere you have a phone. So if you're at your place of business or your place of residence, or if you're on a trip, and I know somebody on here is in Italy, if you're on a trip to Italy, you can call in. Make sure you have your times set because it's a little different in terms of the times, but that's how convenient we've made it. And with our Small Business Help Center, what you're going to find is that we have people who actually work in businesses who understand that the challenges that businesses face today. And because they have that understanding, it's not just that they can sympathize with your cause, with your situation, but they can also empathize with it. And that's very important because empathy can go a long way in terms of the type of help you get. And our people have a mission. We here have a mission. And our mission is to ensure that each and every one of you gets a fair and impartial hearing. That's all ultimately what we care about. You get due process. And I may sound like a parrot, but you'll hear the words due process repeatedly from me. You'll hear the words impartial and fair hearings over and over, because that's our mantra. Without it, our key component to having a society that works would not work. Most people don't deal with the criminal justice system, thankfully. Most people get some contact with getting a summons for an alleged civil violation. Most people. And we want to make sure that you, if you get one, you are afforded justice, fairness, due process. And it's taken us quite some time over the years to put that process, to ensure that that process is solid. And it's not just words for us, it's a mission. And our mission is always to accomplish. And we couldn't do it without organizations like the Greater New York City Chamber working collectively to get the message out. So I will now, because we don't have a lot of time, and I'm going to come back to that question. Does anybody know, I'm going to check the chat, does anybody know what both courts and businesses have? Okay, I'm going to give you guys the answer. And I'm going to write it out on the chat. There's your answer, everybody. We both have chambers. Judges' chambers, businesses have chambers of commerce. So we share something in a way. And that sharing and working together is the way we achieve our goals and objectives. So I know there are a lot of questions here, and we have specific questions, which we are going to get to in the latter part of the presentation. Okay, so I'm going to first I will I'm going to which of you wants to go first on this in terms of Marissa?
John, I'm going to be presenting on our infographics, and Marissa, I can pass it back to Marissa after that.
Okay, all right with that, Marissa?
Yeah, sure, that's fine. Yeah, I created an infographic for Oath that we take out to our outreach events, and it is super helpful. It is also available on our website, as well as our help center link, which is at the top of the page. If John can scroll up, you can see at the very top of the page our help center link right there by the search bar. So that is probably the first place you guys are going to want to go when you receive a summons. And here's the infographic that Rachel will be talking you through.
Thanks.
So,
Marissa,
I'm sorry, Rachel, do you want me to introduce you or no? Okay.
Sure.
Rachel Lamar is Senior Advisor to the Commissioner at Oath. She has worked in a Fortune 200 company prior to coming to public service. She didn't come for the money. She came because she wanted to make a difference in making sure that our city is a better place for everyone. And she's been at Oath for about 8 years, if I'm correct, Rachel. And she's been working vigorously through the years to expand information outreach for businesses throughout the city. And she's been very successful in that approach. And she was a recent honoree of the IC from the Greater New York Chamber. That is an honor in and of itself. So she has a track record with your organization. So without further ado, introduce Rachel Lamar, and then I'll introduce Marissa. Thanks, Rachel.
Great. Thank you, everyone. And thanks to all the small businesses that joined. And thank you so much, Helena, for doing this. Our goal with my coworkers is really to make sure that we give you access to justice. And I thank Deputy Commissioner John Castelli for giving you sort of an overview of Oath. And I want to reinforce a message that we are impartial and independent of the city enforcement agencies. So what that means ultimately is you have a absolute fair shot when you go to a hearing at oath to get the desired outcome that you want when you present your evidence. So I'm going to go over the steps when you receive a summons. If for some reason you receive a summons and don't misplace it or don't remember the summons number, it's really important that you still respond. And on the front of the website that John went over, there's a summons finder. And when I'm done presenting, we'll go back to the summons finder so that you know how to look up your summons, and it's really easy to do. The first
Just
thing that
one-
we want.
Just one thing, because Rachel just spoke about impartiality, and so I just wanted to give you a fun fact. 45% of all summonses that are contested at oath are dismissed. So this is why John was saying that me, Rachel, and him do on these types of forums is really encourage you guys to participate in the process. We are not a criminal court. As you will see from Rachel's presentation, we are extremely accessible and you don't even have to come in person, but we do want you to engage in the process because you almost have a 50% chance of getting that summons dismissed if you follow the steps correctly. So just a fun
Thank
fact.
you. That's a great fun fact, Marissa. And that percentage goes up even higher if you're fighting a summons from Department of Sanitation. So to echo,
Or generally, any agency that doesn't appear on their own summonses to fight their case, the dismissal rate will always be higher on those types of summonses because it's basically just you talking to the hearing officer and they're not putting up a defense. They're using the summons itself to make their case. So you have a higher chance of just getting those summonses dismissed.
great. And so we want to reinforce that you should go and respond to your summons, especially when you believe that you're not in violation. So the first thing that you do is you make sure you know when your hearing date is. You are all very busy running businesses. It's not on the forefront of your mind. So we want to
John, can you click into the English version of that so that she can see both pages? Thank you.
Yeah. So that's the first step. Check your hearing date. When you do this, you'll also, if you look at that step 1, you'll be able to see that the hearing date is circled. And right underneath that, it gives you some more information about hearing location. That will confirm with you that the summons is actually returnable to oaths. It says the Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings. If that information is not on your summons, sorry, but this is not the right place to go to challenge that summons. And that's when Helena can help redirect you. I, of course, can always work with her on that, but we just want to reinforce these are oath summonses that we're going over today. So the next thing that you should know after you check your hearing date and you know that the summons is returnable to oath is you also take a look at what, get familiar with the summons. You have your hearing date. You have the option of signing up for text message reminders, which is step number 2, so that you don't actually miss your hearing, especially if you are convinced that you're going to challenge it. If you decide that you believe you're in violation and you want to pay, sure, you can go ahead and pay. But as we always like to say, our goal is just one, giving people access to justice. Oath is not in the business of wanting to collect payment. Our sole mission is to make sure that you have your fair hearing. So if you do believe you're in violation, you want to pay, go ahead, follow the instructions to pay. We'll send out this infographic so that you guys have it and can keep it handy if you need it. But so there's steps you can take to go and make a payment that I'm not really going to go into today. You can cure or settle depending on the summons, and those are very specific to the agency that issues the summons. But what I'm really going to get into is if you're going to contest your summons at a hearing. So what we've done through the pandemic is made it even easier for businesses to respond. As John mentioned, you guys can respond so simply. You don't have to leave your business. You can respond by having a phone hearing. You can, and we're going to move on to step 3, which is sort of, if you scroll down, John, we want to make sure that you're prepared for your phone hearing, or if you choose to have a hearing in person, we just want you to know that it's really important for you to remember, in the past, if you wanted to go and respond to your hearing in person, all you would have to do is show up. Because of the pandemic, the rules have changed, and you now need to schedule an appointment on how you are going to respond to your hearing. So if you want to go in person, you need to make sure to contact Oath at least 5 business days before your hearing to make sure you let Oath know you would like to come in to have your hearing. And that's really so that Oath can be prepared with the correct number of hearing officers so that we can manage the caseload that's coming in the hearings for that day. So it's really just so that we can manage our end better to help you. And the same goes for if you're going to have a hearing by phone, you need to make sure to contact Oath for a special PIN just for your summons number, or numbers if you have more than one summons. And that's a key step. If you don't do that step, you're not going to be able to have your hearing on your hearing date. And we want to do everything possible to make sure you have your hearing. So that's an extra, step that you have to follow because of the pandemic. But I assure you that if you follow these steps, it makes it much easier because you don't actually have to appear in person, and you have as equal of a chance as winning and fighting your decision as you would if you came in person. The key thing is what step 3 covers, which is preparing for your hearing. So you really want to make sure that you present all of the evidence that you have based off the violation that you're being fined for at your hearing. This is crucial because there will be no other opportunity after your first hearing to present new evidence. So you want to make sure if you have this evidence that you have it prepared. If you do not think you can have it in time for the hearing date that's listed on the summons, then you should do everything possible to make sure you reschedule at least a week ahead of time, if not earlier. Reschedule it as soon as you know that you're not going to be prepared. Sometimes you have to get evidence from your architect, from an attorney, from an engineer. There might be evidence that you need to gather, and we want to make sure you're prepared. If you don't have that evidence on your hearing and you cite the evidence, there's a chance that that might not help you with your hearing, and we want to make sure that you're prepared. So once you have all that information together, or if you have questions about that information, you can contact our help center. We have a specific center of the help center called Small Business Help. And there's an email listed there. It's for those of you who aren't reading it, it's smallbizhelp@oath.nyc.gov. You can also reach out to this phone number, 212-436-0845, but please only do one or the other. For efficiency purposes, you do not need to do both. You can you can call or you can email. You don't need to do both. When you call, you're most likely not getting a person on the phone, but if you leave a voicemail with your summons number, you will get somebody to get back to you as soon as possible. Please note the help center is only for respondents that do not have legal representation. If you've hired an attorney, you would not be going through the help center. If there's something that comes up and you have hired an attorney, you can contact Helena and Helena can reach out to me. In terms of the next steps, the next step, which is sort of the obvious step, is you're going to appear for your hearing. We want to make sure that you know, as I said before, that your evidence can be presented either by phone or in person. If you have photo evidence or other material that you would like to present, you will be given an email address by the hearing officer when you have your hearing on the day of your hearing. So you will be able to email that evidence. So you want to make sure that if you're doing a phone hearing, that all that evidence is able to be emailed. So if you have photos that you took, hopefully they're electronic. If they're not electronic, you have to figure out a way to scan them or take pictures of them with your phone to make them electronic so that you can share them on the day of your hearing. because I sound a little bit repetitive, but it's very important you know that you cannot present your evidence again after that first hearing. So if you are found in violation and you believe you're still innocent and you want to appeal the decision, you need to make sure that you're citing the evidence that you submitted at your first hearing, because you will not have another chance to do that. And another point that I want to make is life happens. For some reason, even with the text message reminders, you might have had a family emergency, something might have happened with your business that caused you to miss your first scheduled hearing. And if that happens, your hearing will then go into default. What that means is that you failed to respond to your hearing. But we want to tell you that you still can respond to the hearing, and you should respond as soon as possible, because if you respond within 75 days, you can reopen it and you can have that opportunity for a fair hearing. If you do not respond, there's a very small chance that it will be reopened afterwards. And we want to make sure to avoid that from happening, because a summons that has a violation of something as small as $25 or $100 can really accumulate penalties and interest, and that's going to make it a lot worse for your business, especially small business owners. This is not something that you want to not respond to, because it will only create sort of more anxiety or stress, and we want to make this as easy as possible for you. So I want to encourage you to ask questions in the chat if you have any, but I also want to pass this back to our Deputy Commissioner, who's going to introduce Deputy Commissioner Marissa Sinico. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks for the great presentation. I hope it clarifies a lot for the viewers here today. I want to introduce my partner, my partner in crime. Over the years, we've worked together, and in fact, the Wall Street Journal did a piece on us for creating the first continuous neighborhood pop-up courts in the country, and it was something that didn't cost really anything. And imagine that government program that doesn't cost anything, and it was very successful. And you can look it up in the Wall Street Journal. Actually, they took an interest in it, and they put it on the front page of the national paper, and we were very proud of that program. And we've done a lot of stuff over the years, and I can say that the mission is in her blood. She's the first and only Deputy Commissioner for Public Affairs and Communications that oath the Administrative Law Tribunal has ever had. She's also one of the youngest Deputy Commissioners in the history of the city when she became Deputy Commissioner at the time. There's a lot more I can say about Marissa. There's so much more I can say about Rachel, but we can have a special, have another Zoom just to go over their fabulous things that they've done. So without further ado, I want to introduce my colleague, who I refer to as M, or the best. M?
Yeah, hi, thank you. So I am going to share my screen, hopefully. Can you guys see that?
Yes, thank you, Marissa. I see the website, the oath website.
Okay, do you see this?
Still the oath website.
Okay, the homepage?
Yep.
Okay, great. And now I'm scrolling. Okay, so thank you guys. Thank you, Rachel. One of the things I did want to just reiterate is that all of our rules and procedures that Rachel went over, they're all established by law. So we as a court cannot make any exceptions to those rules. So, we're here as contacts. Helena is there as a contact for you, but just calling her if you've, missed a deadline or something isn't going to get you any kind of special treatment. We do encourage you to reach out as soon as you get a summons so that you have all the procedures, process, facts, things that you need to know in place well before the hearing date. Typically, hearing dates are about 45 to 60 days from the time of issuance. And again, just to give you kind of a broad overview, we receive about 800,000 summonses each year. So that's a lot of tickets. So the process is the same for each of them. Some cases are more complicated. Rachel alluded to, engineers and contractors, for DOB cases or fire department cases. And each of those agencies do have different procedures of their own. And those procedures relate to their processes. So I'm talking about a certificate of correction, for instance, which has to be filed with the Department of Buildings. That is something exclusive to the enforcement agency. FDNY typically has cure dates listed on their summonses. A cure date would be a date, it'll say cure on the summons, and that would be a date by which you have to get a cure filed with the FDNY and accepted with the FDNY. So you have to give the FDNY that cure information well before the cure date, not by the cure date, well before, because they need to have time to review it and accept it as a cure before it gets pulled off our calendar. If that happens, you don't need to attend the oath hearing. The Department of Health, for instance, if you guys own a restaurant, you will be very familiar with the Department of Health. Obviously, they give out letter grades. They also give out settlements for every summons that gets issued to a restaurant. You will have the opportunity to settle. One of the great things about the Help Center is that you can kind of walk through your case. I know that even though we're not criminal court, we're an administrative court, you're really just speaking one-on-one with a hearing officer in a very casual setting, especially when you're over the phone. So it's really an unintimidating process, but can still be nerve-wracking. You want to win your case. Sometimes we're talking about big fines. So the Help Center is a really great tool and opportunity for you to be able to walk through your defense, to hear you say it for yourself. And one of the things that the Help Center can do is they can pull up your summons information. In our system, we'll see that the Department of Health mailed you a settlement. And once you go over their case with you, they'll explain to you what you were charged with, what kind of defenses, have worked, what the facts of your case are. And you may decide, hey, maybe I don't want to fight this. Maybe I'm going to be found in violation. I'm going to take the settlement. And then the Help Center will be able to, they're not going to make that decision for you, just like they're not going to be able to represent you at the hearing. You're going to represent yourself, but they can help prepare you and walk through your case with you so that you come up with these decisions on your own. And you're doing it in an informed capacity, right? So they will then assist you in helping you accept the settlement, make the payment, make sure it gets processed correctly. So all of those agencies, you do have to pay attention to what their own enforcement recommendations are. A great thing that the Help Center has are these fact sheets. So we have fact sheets for common issues and case types. So despite the fact that these are not our processes that I'm talking about, what we really want to do at the Help Center, which our judges and our hearing officers really can't do because they're neutral, impartial, they're just focused on making a fair, and timely decision in your case. But our Help Center, they're not lawyers. But they're very, very well-informed individuals who have worked for the city for a very long time, and they are very familiar with all of these other processes. And so the Help Center can, for instance, there's some information on small businesses here, information for restaurant owners, filing an appeal at oath. You can see there's a worksheet about New York City Department of Building stipulations. There's New York City Department of Worker Protection settlements. There are certificates of correction for DOB. There are all these types of helpful information for hair cutters, hair salons, barber shops, for nail salons. And as you'll see, there's information in up to 10 languages for most of these. Every day we're putting more and more languages online. We've got Wolof now and Turkish for the infographic, but all of our hearings can be conducted and all of our help sessions can be conducted in up to 250 languages over the phone. So that's instantaneous. You don't have to tell us in advance that you need translation services. Once you contact us, we will get our vendor on the phone and we will quickly ascertain what language you need assistance with, and get a translator on the phone. So just wanted to go over those differences between the enforcement agency and what their requirements are, what our requirements are. There is a difference. You know, we do not accept any certificates of correction, cures, anything that's enforcement related is something that you would always file with the Department of Enforcement, the enforcement department that issued you the summons. Anything related to the hearing process, that is oath. So if you disagree with the hearing decision, there's an appeal process. You can file an appeal. And there are rules on our website on how to file the appeal. Of course, these are also set by law, so no exceptions can be made. These rules, appeal rules, are also, the process to appeal will be on the back of every decision that you receive. Another thing that we offer is the ability to get translated the decision. So if you are not a native speaker, you can reach out to us at Oath at the Help Center. You can reach out to us and they will, let's see, where is that information? Oh, yes, so here, Trials Division of Hearings Appeals Decision, you can find those online. Those are very, very good resources, because if you want to research your case to find out what types of defenses have worked for other types of cases, you can go to this website right here, where it holds a library of all of our appeal decisions, and you can see what types of cases won. So you can search that by keyword. So for instance, if you get a dirty sidewalk case or a summons, you can go onto that website and say dirty sidewalk, and it'll pull up all the dirty sidewalk appeals, and you'll see how the appeals decision decided the case. They'll say, oh, well, at the hearing level, the respondent argued XYZ. The law requires ABC. Because the respondent argued XYZ, we uphold the in violation finding of the hearing officer, right? So then you know, okay, XYZ is not a defense that's really going to work in my case. You know, the appeals unit has already determined that. So that is a very good resource for people who really want to come prepared for their hearing. And a good thing to do is maybe go through some of those decisions before you contact the help center. So then you can kind of work out some more information while you're talking to the help center. Come with some really, you know, informed questions. But of course, we're always here to help you with process questions. We know those. We can tell you what the process is in our sleep, because it's the same for everyone, and we get 800,000 cases a year. So we know what the process is. You can also search our open data set if you're curious, if you're like from another chamber of commerce, or you're from a bid and you're interested in seeing like what kind of tickets are being issued in your district or in your zip code. There's an open data set you can use, and you can filter and query that. You can always reach out to me or Rachel if you have questions about how to use our open data set, and you want it for, you know, your business purposes. Feel free to ask us how to use that. So hearing, you can also request hearing recordings after the hearing. For instance, if you want to file an appeal and you want to listen to your hearing recording to see what was said at the hearing, you're allowed to do that. So then one other thing that I wanted to, and I know this is a lot of information and I talk fast. I'm a New Yorker, what can I say? But I did want, and we are used to getting all this information into a tight time frame so that we can open up the floor for some questions that go into the chat. So again, if you have any questions, start putting them in the chat and we'll start going through them in about 5 minutes. The one last thing I did want to talk about that we interact with businesses specifically for is our MEND NYC program. MEND stands for Mediating Establishment and Neighborhood Disputes. So this is a mediation program specifically designed, which it was launched during the pandemic when open streets, open restaurants came online and lots of people were at home. There was a huge increase of noise complaints in the city. And rather than finding the businesses, you know, the city wanted to come up with a creative solution where enforcement was not the first thing that occurred. So we came up with, in partnership with the Office of Nightlife, is MEND NYC, mediating establishment and neighborhood disputes. These are quality of life issues between residents and businesses. So in order to qualify for this service, the resident who's complaining has to be complaining about a business. And I'm telling you guys about this program because if you're ever contacted by MEND, we strongly recommend that you participate, because what basically happens is people will call 311, 311, 311, and enforcement is very much a complaint driven mechanism, right? So complaints over time build, and that will trigger enforcement. So if someone has filed a lot of 311 complaints and no one's gone out and enforced, they're probably going to contact MEND because they want help with their noise situation or their trash situation or whatever complaint they think may be emanating from a business nearby. And they will contact MEND and they will ask for mediation help. We will work with Office of Nightlife to find your business information. And we will contact you and try to ask you to participate in that mediation. So it's my staff that contacts you at Public Affairs. We will already have done intake with the complainant, understood what their issues are. Then we will do intake with you. And what mediation really is a conversation between both parties. The mediator doesn't make any decisions. You both have to be voluntary. You both have to voluntarily decide to come to this. No one's forcing you to come, but we want you to be willing and able and open to a conversation, to hear what one another are saying, and to come to a mutually agreeable solution. So some solutions in the past have been like splitting the cost of noise canceling curtains, moving a speaker from the front of a restaurant to the back of the restaurant, just even exchanging phone numbers so that you can call down to the restaurant or the venue when something's loud, or give us a heads up if you're having a big event, so every solution looks different because every problem is different and everything is unique. But what's great about MEND NYC, if you participate, is you're able to actually be part of the solution, and you're engendering goodwill with your neighbors who are also going to be your clients, right? Especially if you're in a hospitality industry type business. So you get to be a good neighbor. They get to see it in action. They, use word of mouth to say what a great neighbor you are. And the best part for you is enforcement isn't triggered because they're going to stop calling 311, right? So you don't have those costly fines or summonses that could potentially go to the hearings division. So MEND is completely separate from the hearings division. It's not like if you do MEND, that's a defense for a summons. If a summons is issued, that goes on the summons tract. The purpose of MEND is really to mend, these tensions with your neighbors before the summons gets issued. So you're trying to mend that relationship and avoid the summons being issued in the first instance. So that's MEND NYC, and that's again, it's done with our Conflict Resolution Center, which is independent of our adjudications and our hearing center, but they are professional mediators, and we have a whole network of professional mediators throughout the city at 4 or 5 different law schools, at conflict dispute resolution centers, which are in all 5 boroughs, at the Peace Institute, and we all partner together to mediate these cases. They're all professional, trained, certified mediators. So we encourage you guys to participate in that program if we ever contact you. And I think that's the end of my presentation. I will turn it back over to the wonderful shepherd of all of this work, John Castelli, who is really the champion of our outreach work, along with Rachel. And thank you again for taking the time to listen to us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marissa. Yeah, that was a great presentation. And I just want to point out 2 things. We're going to start answering questions. There's really good questions in the chat.
Great.
Can we just, Marissa, can you just show them Summons Finder really quickly on the website? Because I told them if they misplaced the summons, there was an easy way that they could just try to find it. So we'll show you that, that part of our website, which is just on our homepage. So you don't have to remember anything, but if you ever go to Oath's website, it's right on our homepage. Yeah, you just go to the summons finder, type in the summons. If for some reason you your summons does not pull up based off your name and address, there's a chance that it was not entered yet into the system. I hate to say, don't think you're off the hook. We want you to be relieved, but the truth is that sometimes it takes a while for these things to come into the system. So you shouldn't think because it's not there and you received a summons that it disappeared. There's a chance that it's just taking a while to come into the system. You can then follow up with Helena, or you can follow up with me directly, and then we can sort of track it from there. But thank you,
Wait, one
Marissa.
second, just so everyone knows, the enforcement agency has up until the day of the hearing to file the summons. So you need to, so if you're 2 days before the hearing and the summons isn't in our system yet, they still have 2 more days to file the summons. So you better keep checking. And you can even follow our rules and procedure and request a hearing, and the clerk's office will give you directions, but keep following the procedures. And if the clerk's office tells you it's not in our system, you say, okay, when it hits the system, I'm requesting a hearing for this. So just remember that.
Thank you, Marissa. That's really important, because a lot of times we think we've all been the victim of getting some kind of summons. We all think, well, it's not listed online, so maybe they just withdrew or dismissed it. You need to get that verified before you make any assumptions. And
Thanks.
so thank you, John. I'm going to if we can just go to the questions now. I'm going to ask Deputy Commissioner John Castelli to answer some of the legal questions that are listed here, and I'm going to actually read them out so everyone knows what we're asking. But
Rachel, I can read it out. Rachel, I can read it out.
Okay, and just in terms of the summons, I think from the gentleman from DCWP, I already asked Desmond to follow up with me, but go ahead, John. Thank you.
Well, the question there is, and Desmond West asked the question I received. I'll read it out. I received a letter with $1,000 penalty for not having workers' comp insurance, although I do not have the employees, and I filled out the online questionnaire about that. Is it possible for these sorts of things to be rescinded if it's inaccurate? Okay. First of all, workers' compensation is generally the Workers' Compensation Board of the New York State Workers' Compensation Board, and labor, the Division of Labor Standards of the New York State Department of Labor has enforcement authority in this area for lack of workman's comp. DCWP has depends, but I'm not sure if DCWP, which is the Department of Consumer Worker Protection, has the jurisdiction over these types of cases. I think it might be the state labor department that does that. Okay, so don't hold me to that. We're always gonna tell you whether or not if we don't have the answer, we're not sure, but it's something we can check for you after this. Okay.
But also too, just as a general matter, when the question says, can something like this be rescinded? That's the whole purpose of the hearing process, right? Like if you want something dismissed, you go to your hearing, you fight that charge, and the way you get it rescinded is you get a decision in your favor dismissing that charge. So that's what due process is all about, your opportunity to be heard. And we live in America, we live in the United States. You can't get charged with something without being provided the opportunity to give your defense, your side of the story. So that's what Oath is here for. That is our whole mission, is to make sure that you have a neutral place to come to say, wait, but I had this, it's not accurate, what's on the summons isn't true, this isn't my name, whatever gripe you have, why you think the decision, the summons shouldn't be issued in the first place, is exactly what you want to be telling the hearing officer.
Right. And so just to close that out, Desmond, if you have an actual summons or letter, you can email that to me just so that we can make sure that it is something that is an Oath purview. And then John, you want to go on to the next question.
Yes, and keep in mind, Desmond, we have our partner, we have Helena and her fabulous team that also, if for some reason you need to connect or there's an issue, just reach out and they have Helena has our direct contact immediately. You can get in touch with us or anybody from her team. The next question, what is the statute of limitations on ECB fines? As a former prosecutor, I dealt with statute of limitations cases in criminal law, but when it comes to fines in the administrative legal context, there is no such thing as a statute of limitations per se. Okay, what you have is if you have a default, if a summons goes into default, okay, and that default is not, if it continues, depending on the type of summons, that summons could be, and if it's less than $25,000, that summons could become a docketed judgment in civil court. Okay, summonses that exceed $25,000 that are in default, then the city through its department of its law department can pursue a civil action for to get a judgment for that on that defaulted summons, and then the city can seek through the Department of Finance. The city can seek collection through the Department of Finance and the marshals, the city marshals, collection on that outstanding summons. There is no statute of limitations applicable in that sense. So it doesn't exist for that. So if you have a defaulted penalty, that defaulted penalty could become, depending on the type of summons, if it's a summons that's issued from the Department of Buildings or the Department of Sanitation or the Department of Environmental Protection, or in some cases, the Department of Health, okay, those summonses could be automatic over after a period of about 120 days if the default has not been dealt with, either if it's not been removed and a new hearing has been granted through the process that Rachel mentioned, or it's been paid, the default penalty has been paid, then that defaulted summons will go into become a docketed civil court judgment. All right, so that's not going to be good because it could go on if you're an individual, that judgment will end up on your credit report and damage your credit report. If you're a business and you have property, if you're a property owner, the city can put liens on that property, which makes it very difficult for you to transfer that property. So there are a lot of issues that come up here, and it's very important that if you're in default, you're going to get a notice if you missed your hearing, all right, and you haven't paid the summons or pled to the violation. There are two ways to answer that summons I mentioned earlier. You can pay and plead to the violation, or you can have your hearing. If you've done neither, even if you've missed your hearing, because the hearing date is on that summons and it's set by the enforcement agency. If you missed that date, Oath is going to send you a letter say, hey, reach out to us right away. You missed your hearing. Okay. And remember, you've got 75 days from the date that you missed that to reach out to us, and we'll get you basically through filing the paperwork, the motion to vacate that default. We'll get you a new hearing, no questions asked. After 75 days, it gets a little more complicated. So it's very, very important that you answer that summons. And we're going to keep saying that over and over again. Answer it. Don't go into default. You cannot go into default. So I'm sorry.
John, he's asking clarification if the default is from a previous owner, which means that he isn't the named respondent.
And I just want to clarify one thing, just generally, if you go on open data or you see on a summons finder, sometimes after a period of like 8 or 11 years or something, it'll say written off, but summonses never get written off. Once they're filed, they may be written off at oath because the city has stopped trying to collect on them, but they're still filed as an outstanding judgment with civil court. So that lien and pen and interest is accruing every year that it remains unpaid. So written off doesn't mean that it's disappeared. It's still very much alive, just not at oath. There's nothing you can do at oath at that point.
Great point, Marissa. And I had to explain that before I can get to the next question, Rachel. The next question is, what happens if I purchase a property and there happens to be a lien on that property from an outstanding defaulted penalty that the prior owner never dealt with? Now, we know that title companies are responsible for determining whether or not there are liens on properties, whether there are issues with properties. Those title companies, you have to clear title before you can actually transfer that title. So, and that's what we pay title companies to do when we purchase properties or transfer or purchase. But in terms of businesses, if you're again, we talking about previous owner of a business here, because it's basically there are things to check, but usually the debts and liens that are with that prior business, unless it's clarified at the purchase and closing of when you finalize the sale of that business, that could travel with those debts could travel with the property or business. So you're going to have to check on that. Something and you can. Again, there are ways where you can speak with the Department of Finance because they're the city's collection agency, and you can see whether or not they have some sort of mitigation or some sort of settlement or some sort of resolution for that. I can't speak to that because that's really a collections question.
Right.
But I just want to keep that in mind. I hope that
But
helps
just-
the question.
No, I think that's very helpful, John. And I just want to close the loop. That is exactly why you have the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce, because not everything dealing with the city is oath specific. So we will help you as much as we can. But when something involves another agency, an enforcement agency, or the Department of Finance for settlements, we're going to now work with your partner, the Greater New York Chamber, and we'll help them, we'll guide them, but we want to make sure everyone knows that here. And I see that we have a special guest that just joined, Helena.
Just want to introduce, this is our president, Mark Jaffe from the Greater New York Chamber. Go ahead, Mark.
Oh, I'm privileged to be on with two deputy commissioners and the city of New York. We love it. The city of yes. And Rachel, brilliant. We should give you an award. We already did that, didn't we? So yes, we pride ourselves on working with everybody. That's why we're the largest chamber in Manhattan. We've worked from the bottom up with every different group, every different agency. Our law center admires the work that Oath does. It's helping people know where they stand, and all they have to do is the right thing. And we're going to keep preaching that to our membership. We have a great committee meeting coming up Tuesday. You're all invited. It's going to be our Public Safety, Quality of Life Committee. And we're also going to have a reception after. It's not in the morning. It's not a coffee. But Helena, why don't you tell them some of the coffees and luncheons we have coming up?
Well, you know what, every Tuesday, we have an online networking or an in-person networking. Everyone should mark their calendar. September 24th is our annual business expo. And we would love to have someone from Oath represented to have a table there. So they can do Q&As. People are walking around. This is, we have a lot of the local city, state and federal agencies represented. And it's free to attend, so we're small business friendly, and that's what, you know what, I put that on in the notes in the chat. I just can't say enough how important it is to connect the agencies, because the reputation is changing, and you are small business friendly, and especially the point that you have transition from in-person hearings, you are showing that that time is very important to small businesses, and they don't have, an entrepreneur or a small business who has 3 to 4 employees can't take a whole day off, because that's their financial, economic, what's the word I'm looking for? That's what they thrive on. One day can make or break them. So we so appreciate what you do, the opportunities that you give them to make sure that they do get a fair hearing. And the information that was provided today was amazing. And Christian, thank you. This was an amazing webinar. We have to get this information out. Again, we are recording this. You guys are going to write, a review on this so I can put it on our chamber news. We'll post any information. We are very strong in social media. Let's get these things out into the business's hands.
And I love your acronym, Oath. Again, we love the city of yes. The only acronym I like better is chamber.nyc. If you have questions, just call 212-CHAMBER. You'll get a hold of Helena and her marvelous team. And I'm always so proud as I see all the other chambers working with Oath and taking an oath, as Helena made very clear, to help small businesses. They are the true growth engine of democracy.
And the backbone of New York City. So we thank all small businesses and medium-sized companies and major corporations. So that's our closing remarks. If you guys want to, just summarize anything, it's all yours. And we so appreciate it.
Thank you, President Jaffe. It's an honor and it's a privilege to be working, partnering with you and your team. I have to say again, I'm going to give tremendous kudos to Helena. I've seen her in action, work, and saw her at the, like I said earlier in the program, I mentioned I saw her at the Queen's Expo, and she is a true advocate for businesses, and I've seen and really gets the message out there for your organization. There are a couple of questions there. I can quickly answer those questions. Can a non-attorney registered representative reach out to the help center? The answer is no. The help center is for people who do not have representation at all. It's someone who wants to represent themselves. So if the small business owner, again, if they get a sanitation summons, they're not going to hire an attorney. They're not going to spend $500 to hire an attorney if they're facing a $100 fine on that summons. They can do it themselves, and it can be stressful. You get a summons, it can be, people get summonses that it can be very stressful. So the help center is there to proverbially hold their hand and walk them through that process and give them the support that they need. Can't give legal advice, but these types of legal questions, they can be, the small business owner can figure out on their own. It's very, again, it goes back to our procedural rules. Anyone can read them. They're written for lay persons. They're not written for attorneys. Like I said, you don't need a law degree or a law license to read our rules and understand them. So it's very,
And attorneys should read our procedural rules if they want to represent someone at our hearings. All of our procedures are set by law and they are on our website. So if you are an attorney or a registered representative, all of the procedures are there. The help center is there to explain those procedures to people who are not attorneys.
What I found was amazing in your presentation is you have references to a certain violation, and if the people got it dismissed, you can reference that. So that was amazing. I think a lot of people don't know that because they might hire an attorney to just look that up when they can do it themselves.
That's right. That's exactly right. And just to summarize, sorry, John, did you want to say anything else?
One last question there. How can we find more information sessions like this? Again, you can read it. Our website has all the contact information you need. Marissa, myself, and Rachel have put our contact information on the chat, so you can reach out to us anytime. And again, like I said, I sound like a parrot, but I can't say it over enough. We have a direct connect with the chamber. And Helena, and phenomenal, organization. This isn't like, hey, we'll see you in a couple of years or whatever.
Right.
This is us showing that direct connect and being available at any time through our partners at the chamber, working together collectively to ensure that each and every one of you get the services you need. If you're dealing with a question or an issue related to your summons.
Right. And so we all, on behalf of the three of us, we want to thank you, Helena and Mark, for the work that you're doing. And we just want to reinforce, if there's one thing that we leave this session today, sure, the businesses can reach out to you, they can reach out to me, we can do another session. But what we want to leave and impress upon everyone is to make sure to respond to that summons, and to also know that because of what you mentioned, Helena, now you can do it from your business. It's very simple. You can have a phone hearing. That they need to just follow that extra step now, which is they need to contact Oath to get a PIN. So it's more convenient, but you still have to plan ahead. And if you follow those steps, it will be as seamless as possible. But if you don't, it'll be a little bit of a headache.
Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you, Helena. Thank you, Mr. President. It's really, it's been a great thing for us. We are very excited about getting the message out. We have our mission, and you're now part of our mission. So we hope to make sure that the lines stay open all times. Rachel, as our point person with chambers and business organizations throughout the city, I know we'll keep in touch, and she may add more awards to what's behind her on the wall there. She's running out of space, but and Marissa, I can't say enough about Marissa, so I've said enough, and I don't want to hold because we're over. And for the sake of brevity, brevity could be a good thing. We will jump off here.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us. This is on Chamber TV on our website. We will also check out Chamber News. We will have an overview of everything that's been said, and we will be doing a follow-up in the fall for more information on this. So this is just the beginning. Thank you again so much and have a great day.
Thanks,
Thank you
everybody.
all.
Bye-bye. Thanks.